Septua Sanguis, Chapter 5. What? Stupid? Envy shrieks. Don't call me that. Wrath booms. Why not? You answer to it. Envy's response is old and worn, nearly faded of all meaning, yet eternally incites her brother. I hate you, Wrath snarls. His muscled arm becomes a blur of speed and technique as he hurls a flaming spear toward the sister with emerald studded across her forehead. A dull thud resounds as the spear hits its mark, and it does hit its mark. Whatever the others may think, Wrath isn't stupid. He doesn't aim directly at this sister. Envy glares at the spear impaling her throne. The red flames spit on the mosaic she so meticulously polished. She nearly screams, but doesn't. Instead, she shoves the sound down, unwilling to give Wrath any satisfaction. Then she purses her lips and whistles. One very precise whistle. The whistle is too soft to be heard by humans, but since her siblings aren't human, they hear. And they know there is a cost. They just don't know what. Envy watches as the precise vibration of her whistle causes the flaming spear to become brittle, like sand, and fall onto the marble floor. Stop! Stop! Don't dirty my floors, Pride demands. His confidence is supreme. He is seated upon his throne, streaming with glory. Golden light cascades from his golden curls onto his golden shoes, as effortless as water. Envy stares at him and bites nervously on her cheek. Why doesn't my glory do that? What is wrong with me? The eternal question gnaws at her. It chews on her marrow and sends her eyes flicking about the room. She sees what she always sees. 6 jeweled thrones, seated by 6 deities, each with enormous power and unspeakable glory. Even sorrow on her pesky little chair is streaming with glory. Malice bites at Envy's heart and she fumes. Why do they have all the glory and not me? How can I have none when I deserve it most? Envy's eyes continue to flick, desperate to unload her insecurity. She spies the hairy lump of Sloth, but knows that he is too easy a target to satisfy her needs, and the grotesque blubber of Gluttony is too queasy. So Envy chooses prey which can be unpredictable unless she executes with precision. Scribbling away sorrow. Did you mention the spear? Or are you afraid to upset our mothers? We wouldn't want them to know Wrath is exactly the same, would we? But then, so are... Envy's voice stalls as she leans forward to continue, but she's cut off. Honestly, we should call her suffering because she's always suffering, shrouded in those ghastly shadows. Greed speaks with her voice lilting upward, while also dripping with distaste. Such a dreary bird. Sorrow looks up from her parchment and regrets it. Just one look at greed is equivalent to a tsunami. Some call it grandeur, all the chests, overflowing with silks, chiffons, linens, stacked with ivory, silver, bronze, dangling bracelets, earrings, medallions, pearls. And that's just the beginning. These are dwarfed by the chests filled with gems, colors and cuts beyond imagination, sizes that dwarf any fist. And although Greed's voice is lilting, almost carefree, Sorrow sees nothing carefree in Greed's eyes, the way they grasp and hoard. And there is nothing lilting in Greed's fingers, so desperate to twirl that they twitch. Sorrow looks back to her parchment and resumes scribing. Her words include the flaming spear, but do not include Greed's remark on suffering, because suffering is not the same as sorrow. And don't be such a prat, Envy, Greed continues. I should have thought it was obvious. You're the same as sorrow, always suffering. The only difference is your glory. Envy doesn't breathe. She can't breathe. She's terrified. Does Greed see I have no glory? No. Envy must find a way to be better, to be more. But how? She isn't better. She isn't more. She's flawed and broken and nothing. What if they see I am nothing? They cannot. She must divert attention off herself and onto someone else, but she can't think straight. Her mind is a jumbled mass of anxiety and worry, so she does the quickest thing she can think of. She snaps back at Greed. You're nothing but a freezing blue. Envy is cut off again, but this time it booms. I hate this place. Humans are stupid. They do the same thing over and over. Flames curl from Wrath's eyes, and he clenches his fists. Suddenly, Pride thrusts himself from his throne and marches to the center of the room. He tosses his curls over his shoulder and streams radiant light. He halts in the glow of his own glory and beams around the room. He does so love to beam. He literally can't stop himself. Then he speaks as though every word he says is an absolute. Listen, listen, we are done. Do you hear me? We are not doing this anymore. It is not working. We are going to... Wrath, did you say humans are stupid? Envy is so sickened by Pride's confidence that she snatches back her wits and strikes out. But not at Pride. Instead, she lashes at the easy target. Did you say that they do the same thing over and over? Well, Wrath, that sounds just like you. So you see, you are stupid. You just said it. Gluttony shifts to watch her siblings. Everything is the same as it ever was. Watching Envy and Wrath is like watching a mirror reflect the sun, harsh and blinding. Just look how fast Wrath created that fireball. Is he getting slower? Even so, there he is, primed to destroy, with flames ricocheting between his hands as though rage itself were a living thing. Gluttony can practically hear his blood boil, which reminds her of so many delicious foods. Boiled lobster, boiled crab, boiled nochi, and eggs parboiled to perfection. Her stomach growls in agreement, and she decides Wrath is hard-boiled at this moment. Hatred scorches every fiber of his being. It's like some uncontrollable voice in his head screams, "Destroy! Now!" And while Gluttony's stomach may be the one growling, those two look just as hungry, so desperate to feed that pit deep inside them. Suddenly, Wrath bellows and hurls the flaming ball upward. It shoots toward the fresco like a cannon and slams into the ceiling with a heavy thud. This is quickly followed by a burst of blackened smoke, and Wrath's indecipherable bellow becomes more maniacal at the sight of his destruction. "Stop! Stop! Don't dirty my ceiling!" Pride yells. He manages to increase his volume to a majestic shout so he can be heard, even as he prances from one golden shoe to the other. His prancing does allow him to leap out of the way as chunks of burning fresco fall upon the floor. Pride directs his righteous wrath upon Wrath. You! I said we could meet here if you behave." Wrath winces and rushes to fix the mess he made. He stumbles as he grabs burning fresco off the marble floor. He is ashamed to have lost control and unleashes fury yet again. But he is right. Pride even backed him up. Humans are stupid. They're always doing the same thing, over and over. Pride glares at Wrath. His movements are sheepish, despite the colossal strength of his body. The two mannerisms are so at odds with each other, and Pride cannot imagine how his brother manages to get such colossal strength to look sheepish. It's humiliating to watch him, especially in someone with such a small stature, so much physical strength in that average-sized body. Wrath looks ridiculous, Pride thinks. But he is right. Humans are stupid. Suddenly, Greed looks up from the pile of coins in her lap. Her face is striking, like ice in winter sun. She glances at the ruined fresco and laughs. Bloody hell! One would think you'd know better by now. Are you surprised that Wrath lost the plot and left you with a dreadful mess? Don't fret, Pride. I'll paint you another fresco, and I promise not to leave you out this time. Leave him alone, Wrath shouts, dropping the chunks of fresco in his arms. And then, faster than most can see, he snatches a flaming spear from the air and throws it at the one who already knows it's coming. A twirl of her finger is all it takes. A simple twirl, and Greed creates a vortex so powerful it tears the flaming spear from the air and sets it behind her throne. She makes it look so damn easy. Just a twirl, and her vortex grabs, rips, yanks, and pulls whatever she wants to her. And although it's difficult to tell if her fingernails play a part in the summoning, the fact that she keeps them icy blue and absurdly long, plus gets so nasty when one breaks, makes this not such a far-fetched idea. Everything looks normal now, except for the smoldering spear resting behind Greed's throne. But everything isn't normal. There is a cost, a wretched cost. A cost invisible on the outside, yet known intimately on the inside. This cost occurs when any sibling summons their powers upon another sibling. With humans, it's free as a bird. They can use, abuse, manipulate, do as they please. But try the slightest thing on a sibling and bam, a wretched cost is due. None of them is certain what Wrath and Greed are feeling right now. They only know it isn't pleasant. None of this concerns Pride. He doesn't care what Greed pays for her deed, nor Wrath for his multitude of deeds. Pride is concerned with other deeds, so he walks to Sorrow's table with a determined look. No, no, do not scribe that. Sorrow does not scribe. She remains as she was, poised, with quill raised. So much weighs on each line of ink, their captivity, their freedom. Sorrow ignores Pride and studies the words on the parchment. They are a reflection of the truth, but not its entirety. If their mothers knew the whole truth. You're not in charge, Pride. Green tongues of light hiss from the emeralds on Envy's forehead as though they spit venom as she spits words. Pride pauses before Sorrow's table, then turns and marches to the center. Each curl springs with glory, yet somehow does not dislodge his crown. He is majesty at its finest, a masterpiece of untold glories. Yet left in the wake of his golden shoes are sooty prints, burnished upon the marble floor. This is his tattletale, the sign that he has summoned his power. Any mortal would fawn, nearly faint, and then follow his captivating presence wherever he commanded. But his siblings, they've seen it forever. Done, done. I said we are done with this plan. It is not working. We are going to create a trial for the humans, and this time they will prove they can best our wills. Once they do that, our mothers will know we will not break any more realms, and we can do as we please. Lust gapes. Absolute perfection. Pride isn't his favorite, but he's enough to rile up a carnal fetish or two. And Lust knows Pride isn't a quick fix like Greed. Pride requires length and strength. Not that Lust has a preference. He loves all forms, whether masculine or feminine, for Lust belongs to everyone and to no one. Mainly, Lust belongs to desire. Lust licks his full, soft lips. He accentuates his lisp, knowing the reaction this will cause. Oh, Pride, fabulousness, I do. Please and thank you. Wrath's nostrils flare. You are so gross. Lust licks his lips again, even slower. He stares into Wrath's burning eyes, waiting, on the edge of his own ecstasy. Gluttony ignores her oldest and youngest brothers and focuses on one of the middle ones. Pride, we're too big, too much. We need to be smaller, to break apart, make us easier to digest. Honestly, do you think they're going to bloody eat us? Greed says. Quiet, everyone. This will be simple, Pride says. One human against one deity, one at a time. If they focus on just one of us, they can succeed. Oh, do tell, brother. Why would any human bother when they've had such dreadful results before? Greed asks. See, they will be immortal, like us. If they can best our wills, then they will be like us. Immortal, Pride says. Wrath turns to Pride. We can't break apart. That's dumb. You fool, you stupid idiot. We aren't going to literally break apart, Envy shrieks. What follows is a frenzied exchange of insults, slanders, put-downs, and put-offs, all of which happens without Sorrow. She hasn't looked from the sooty spot on the floor where Pride walked. Another Pride walk, she thinks, followed by a Pride talk. She's so tired of the millennia of his pride. And not just him, all of them. Why can't I get out of here? If there is a way to free herself from this absurdity, Sorrow hasn't found it. She's trapped in a cage of nonsense when all she wants is to be rid of her siblings. And she could be, oh yes, she could be done with them forever. But then she'd never be free. She needs these glorified idiots. And that frustrates her most of all. Suddenly, Sorrow hears her shadows thrum. They murmur in a dark, unruly tone, a tone too low for her to understand. She glances around the room and is grateful, one of the rare times, that her siblings have lost themselves in a fight. Sorrow seizes the opportunity and listens more deeply. She almost drops into our line, but decides it's too risky and just listens. The vibration is unusual, and there is also an unusual amount of power, an enticing power, and alluring power. Sorrow stiffens. There is only one being who has that kind of power. Darkness. And Sorrow will not let darkness rule her. She will choose of her own will. Just as Sorrow commits to her own will, the shadows escalate. Their vibration morphs into a tone that rings throughout the hall. Sorrow can't believe none of her siblings hear this, ever. Nor she can believe that they haven't noticed shadows storming beneath her feet. She must calm them before anyone does. Sorrow steadies her mind, and she sends a balanced rhythm to the shadows. They respond by quieting and settling into a dense mass at her feet. She coaxes the mass onto her robe and tucks them inside. If someone were watching, the effect would be one of swirling smoke. Now that all is still, Sorrow looks up. Her siblings continue to bicker as though they are content to do this forever. She shakes her head and rises from a small, unadorned chair. Her movements are slow, but to no avail. Any unplanned movement from Sorrow is akin to alarm bells ringing. 7 sets of eyes glare at her, each one belonging to a deity who is now rigid and wary. Each one assesses the shadows, which they so often miscalculate. Sorrow glances down and notices a shadow on the outside of her robe. She hushes it swiftly inside, but is dismayed by the oversight. She cannot afford to make such mistakes. An escapee would ruin this already unbearable meeting. Sorrow lingers a moment longer and then walks forward. She does her best to imbue stillness, but her robe ripples as though an early morning breeze catches the hem. The 7 watch her every move, especially her robe. When Sorrow reaches the center, she lifts a roll of parchment. Tiny flecks of ash still float down, so she brushes them from her face before speaking. Everyone needs to sign our last meeting. I'll come around. Her voice is nearly lost in the grimness of the room, but she knows they heard by the look on their faces, ranging from disgust to distaste. Part of the absurdity of this place, she reminds herself, is that I try to appease them, yet they never bothered to appease me. Sorrow moves off to begin where she always begins. Please sign, she says. A vibration rises from the earth. The sound is grating and guttural, like rocks grinding in the deep and sunken earth. Hard, so hard, Sloth says. Just sign. Hard, so hard, Sloth repeats. The density of his voice threatens to crack the marble. Just sign an S, Sorrow says, holding out her quill. But to her dismay, not surprise, Sloth's eyelids droop. Sloth will blink only once while she gathers the other signatures, but this one blink can just as easily take minutes as hours. Sorrow moves toward another sibling and notices a bright orange chunk of fresco on the floor. She glances up to find the greater part still in place. She can almost make out all 7 deities, each one surrounded by their color, their gem, their ancient symbol, their tone. The ceiling has 7 of nearly everything. 7, even though there are 8. 8, bound by a bloodline. Sorrow walks forward and a wretched smell oozes up her nostrils. She holds her breath and steadies herself, but this does little as the odor crawls up her skin and pricks her with nausea. She exhales as slowly as possible and considers her next step. Sprawling before her is an ocean of glutinous fat. It is streaked with reds and purples and ripples like a heartbeat. Sorrow maneuvers around one section with extreme care, then pauses before pushing a bit of the soggy flesh out of the way. The blubber bobs back and forth as a new odor seeps into her mouth. The smell of fermentation causes her to gag and she leans back. I will never get used to this, she thinks, then cautiously sips in a tiny bit of air. She slides her foot closer to the putrid flesh, horrified by the fat curdling around her leg. That is disgusting, Envy shrieks. Sorrow jerks and then calms herself and her shadows. Envy almost had her stumbling into the wretchedness. Sorrow leans forward and offers Gluttony the quill and parchment. Please sign. Gluttony drools at the sight of the quill. She is ravenous, starving, and desperately needs to eat. Even a quill will do. But the shadows peering out from Sorrow's robe look as hungry as she feels. So she lifts the sweaty blubber of her arm and takes the items. Gluttony begins to scribe her name with the huge round strokes of her ancient symbol. This takes enormous effort, given the size of her arm, so she stops to rest. Her mind immediately races to eating. Not necessarily food, just eating. Nothing can stop her from eating, not even revolting things, or tasteless things, like the book Sorrow loaned her. The pages Gluttony ate were thick and chewy, dead and empty on her tongue. She didn't mean to eat it. She was just so hungry and the pages were there, so she ripped out a few and ate them. They didn't taste good, but at least the words were interesting. She ingested them, even though she's still not sure what they mean. She isn't very good at smarts. She's only good at ingesting. And after finishing what remained of the book, reading it, not eating it, Gluttony still can't understand the main premise, something about humans and free will. What'd you think of Pride's idea, sissy? Gluttony says. She smiles wide, hoping a bit of sweetness will get Sorrow to answer her. Not just because she wants to know if Pride's idea will work, but because an answer, any answer, will quench a bit of her hunger. Sorrow doesn't answer, so Gluttony probes further. Do you think humans have free will? Do you think they can change? Her question is a poor attempt at intelligence, but she can't formulate a better one. Sorrow only shrugs and looks away, so Gluttony finishes signing. She returns the quill and parchment with a regretful rumble of hunger. Sorrow moves toward Wrath and Pride, the latter doing all the talking, as usual. The two sign quickly, and Sorrow walks toward Greed, but finds herself blocked by an enormous chest of shoes. It is filled with animal skins: alligator, goat, cow, pig, buffalo, and something with scales. There are also shoes of silk, satin, suede, and one very shiny pair of platinums. You brought more than usual, Sorrow says. Greed's nails rap the sapphire throne with an irritated rhythm. I suppose we have different standards, don't we, dearie? Perhaps you haven't noticed, but I'm not a bloody skint, although you look to be, which isn't wrong exactly. It's just so very you. Sorrow ignores the commentary as she maneuvers beyond the shoes and leans forward, but she still can't reach, so Greed stands up and leans over. Once Greed finishes signing, she straightens up and says, Nice quill, dearie. I'll keep it. You will not, Sorrow says. Greed feels a tremor, like a silent sound that has an even bigger echo. She glances at Sorrow's hem and pauses. I suppose that's one way of doing it, Greed says, and returns the quill. Sorrow sighs. She still has 3 left, 2 of which she has yet to approach, and wants to keep it that way as long as possible. So she returns to Sloth. As she approaches, a sound begins to grate against the marble. Too much, Sloth says. Sorrow thrusts the parchment beneath his hairy knuckles. Sign! Sloth grinds his voice in despair. Hard, so hard to be me. Sorrow forces the quill into his hand and lifts it above the parchment just as his eyelids begin to droop, half concealing his pupils. Sorrow yanks on his hand. I can't leave until you sign, she says. It's only then that she notices a shadow streaking across her robe, like a feral cat. What is going on? She asks herself. Another sound escapes the hairy form of Sloth. It is something akin to boulders being pushed up a mountainside. You don't understand. Sorrow squeezes his quilled hand, and to her relief, he smears an S next to his ancient symbol. She moves away, crossing the entirety of the circle, and offers the quill to a bone-dry hand. She watches her quill cut back and forth, scratching every line with perfection. Envy's chiseled signature is the same as ever, and Sorrow stares with dismay. Her sister is the same as ever. This isn't new or singular. This sameness is in all her siblings. No depth, no breadth, just ramrod sameness in each of them, not a shred of variance. Sorrow sighs again as she retrieves her quill and parchment and moves toward the final deity, the one she detests, the one with the most sameness. You're the last one, Sorrow says. Lust doesn't answer, so she nudges the glimmering key. Only then does Lust look up. His eyebrows furrow. Good Lord, it's you. Can't you see I'm enjoying myself? Lust's free hand fondles the firm, delicious flesh inside his shirt. Such displays of intimacy delight him. Sorrow swipes the key again and more firmly shoves the parchment in his face. Sign, or I'll give your key to Greed. We both know what she does with it. Lust's mind suddenly fills with wild and obscene fantasies, from erotic teasing to soft pleasing. He can do so much with his key. It fits every lock of lust and desire. It opens them all. Never permanently, they always close and lock. But for a moment, every lock has a climax. Lust's hand threshes more vigorously inside his shirt, and he moans. Sorrow doesn't move. Suddenly, Lust jerks upright, ablaze with both passion and fear. The thrum of a shadow penetrates deep into his body, and for a moment it feels so damn good. There is no difference between pain and pleasure. Everything just feels so damn good, too good to stop. He must satisfy and be satisfied. His urges are salacious and his arousal unstoppable. Lust moves his key toward the shadow and nearly unlocks its carnal secrets, but is luckily interrupted. Sorrow flicks the key with her finger, and Lust recalls the last time he tried this. He drops the key into his lap and takes the quill into a trembling hand, trembling with the fervor of unmet desires. He scribbles his signature, barely able to focus beyond his craving. He signs incorrectly, but Sorrow catches his mistake. No, here. She points to the empty space next to the dyadic symbol of a swollen phallus within a curved vulva. Lust signs, and Sorrow turns to the cavernous hall. Only then does she realize that hell has loosed itself upon the room, and she blocked it all out. Over to the left, chiffon curtains burn. They whip flames, but mostly melt against the glass, leaving a charred residue. Wrath attempts to stop the disaster, one he most certainly started, while he simultaneously apologizes to Pride. Pride shouts something back and stomps his feet, as though they too are on fire. Near the center of the room, two sisters are not faring much better. Envy shrieks at Greed, while Greed stuffs a length of brocade into a chest. She must have pulled it off the wall because it has images of pride woven into it. Why Greed would want such a thing is beyond Sorrow. And over to the right, Gluttony slurs to Sloth, her tongue slopping in and out, all while Sloth pretends to sleep. And then right here, beneath her feet, shadows thrum. Sorrow can't take it. She just can't. She can't babysit these fools any longer. She's going to let them rot forever. She doesn't care what happens. Anything is better than this. She will fight her mothers if she must. She was the only one who ever dared fight their mothers. And honestly, now that she thinks of it, it never amounted to much. Sorrow sighs again. Fight isn't the correct word. Riddles aren't fights. They're vectors leading to solutions, and most of them take eons to solve. Sorrow still remembers the first one. The riddle whispered in her ear the moment she was born. What can you not see, yet must touch? Sorrow knows better. She truly does, but this is the quickest way. Plus, she doesn't care. She's tired of caring. So she does what she knows she shouldn't. She does what she promises herself she won't. She releases thrumming shadows into the room. The shadows don't go far. They don't even bother anyone. And yet the 7 deities freeze and glare. Their mouths close tight, and a few shudder. Sorrow knows the words their mouths long to speak. Sorrow is too powerful. She feels their resentment and loathing, and knows that for some, dislike is not too kind. Dislike is too kind a word. What of revenge? Sorrow wonders about the look on their faces. Revenge. How could they want revenge for something they don't know about? Sorrow calls back the shadows and sits in the small chair. Her eyes scan the parchment for today's meeting, and she wonders about something else. Could Pride's trial do any harm? She doubts it will do any good. Humans won't change. So her real concern is whether it might do harm. Plus, what would it take to put humans through trials, one deity at a time? At the very least, they would need to enlarge their causal windows, which shouldn't be too hard, but connecting them, that will take some planning, clever planning. And Pride's idea of immortality is the least feasible aspect. But since none of this is likely to work, and Sorrow can't see any harm, she will try, just to keep her siblings focused on something. I may know a way to make this possible. Let me think, Sorrow says. She lifts her quill before continuing. What is his trial to be called? Pride. Pride assumes his favorite posture, feet wide, one hand fisted inside the other. Then he tosses a few golden curls from his eyes. After all that, Pride is prepared to speak. But he doesn't get a chance. Envy lunges off her throne. She will show them all. She might not have any glory, but she knows the power of naming. She strides to the center of the room, and every one of her joints crack, sending staccato echoes throughout the hall. There are 7 of us, Envy says, 7 from the same bloodline. She stares at one of the throne deities, forcing them to look into her hollowed eyes, then continues. So we will name this after us, Septua Sanguis. The 7 look amongst themselves, one of them with barely open eyes, doing only what he must. They silently contemplate the power of the name. Septua Sanguis, 7 bloods. They nod in agreement and slip a unique object from within their throne. As they do, a vibrant glory fills the hall. This glory is their birthright, a grand pronouncement of their bloodline. It's not what they've done. They did nothing to achieve it. It's what they were born into, born as. The 7 direct their attention to Sorrow. She slips her unique object from the sleeve of her robe, and the entire hall pulses. One unified tone bursts forth with celestial harmony, causing small bits of fresco to loosen and fall. The 7 crane their necks as Sorrow scribes. They watch with vigilance as her quill flows over the parchment, smooth and satisfying, like the ink master she is. The name slowly appears, Septua Sanguis, 7 bloods. Once she is done, the 7 congratulate themselves. They lean back upon their thrones and glisten with glory, ignoring the 8th. As they glorify themselves, Sorrow slips a stem of yarrow from her other sleeve and quickly draws the symbol of 8 over the symbol of 7. The ink is invisible. Yarrow is always invisible, but for those who can hear.